All right, welcome everyone. So we're going to get started because we are a couple minutes past and we do have a decent bit of information to share with everybody. First off, I really appreciate everybody coming and taking time to kind of just learn from myself and obviously some of my colleagues here. And we'll introduce ourselves in just a bit about career fair prep, right? This is the whole reason. We're in the mix of the season. Everything's getting busy. You obviously want to engage in that particular aspect in addition to keeping up on your academics. It's a really busy time of year. So we hopefully will be able to impart some kind of important and crucial information for you to use and leverage at your disposal to really take advantage of what's happening around, especially the career fairs that have already started to take place and will continue to take place, obviously going into next week and even further beyond. So my name is Hao Yuan. I am a career internship specialist in the Office of SuccessWorks. Some of you may recognize me because I believe I see some familiar faces. Maybe I've met with you in an appointment, but SuccessWorks is the office right across from the Memorial Library, across the Library Mall on the third floor of the bookstore. And we specialize in providing career services and career guidance and programming, obviously like this one, to specifically LNS students. So anybody that's majoring in LNS, especially from an undergraduate perspective. I have some other folks here from even different offices, so I'm gonna let them introduce themselves.
So my name is Sing Pao. I am the Employer Relations Coordinator with SuccessWorks. So my goal is to work with employers. So these career fairs, I oversee the equity inclusion career fairs. So I'm not sure if you all attended that one last week, but that is the career fair that I oversee in our office.
Thanks. And my name is Kathleen Finnegan. I use she, her, hers pronouns, and I'm one of the international student advisors over in International Student Services. My caseload is predominantly with LNS, data science, computer science, information science, but we also see all F1 or J1 students that drop in. So even if I'm not your assigned ISS advisor, you may still get to hang out and come see me, Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday.
Awesome. Thanks for that. And yes, just to follow up with what Kathleen said, my specialization is actually over technology data analytics. So myself and Beth Carabin, who you may also be familiar with, we both oversee that particular career community, which is the model we use at SuccessWorks. Obviously, we have a lot of other folks in my office that are my colleagues that oversee different other industries or career communities. So definitely come up and see us. But the focus of this presentation is obviously, once again, career fair prep. So the agenda is really obviously talking about preparation for that. For those of you that may have already started to go to these or have already gone to these in previous semesters or last year or even before that, you kind of know what's going on. But for those of you that are not really familiar with it, we want to give you kind of just an overview, very concise overview on what to expect. And obviously the big piece, which I'm sure many of you are interested in hearing about, that Kathleen's going to provide is the piece about F1, J1 employment. Obviously work authorizations, OPT, CPT, AT, things of that nature, how to maybe even answer some questions, which I'll cover related to career fairs and obviously your visa status as a student here at UW and how that could impact employment and all of those things in terms of how you market yourself and what type of conversations to get into with employers. So that's what we're going to cover. And we do have a lot of information, so I'll get started. So this obviously is one of those things where I'm sure it's going to generate questions. So please feel free to ask those questions, but we just ask you wait to the end. I will stay after. Kathleen, I think probably will stay after for a little bit as well. So feel free to come to us afterwards. We do have a large portion of information to cover, so we try to ask you to respectfully hold those during the presentation until we're done. I will email you a resource guide because we checked you in, you saw with the scanners. And for those of you on Zoom, don't worry. We also have your information recorded because you're in the session. And Kathleen, once she sends that to me, I will send that to you in terms of a resource guide that pretty much outlines with links, accessible links, everything that we're going to cover on this page, including the OPT, CPT, AT stuff, and different links to career events, what to look out for, how to prep for it. There'll be other resources on that guide, and I'll email that to you, usually within a couple of days after the presentation or at the beginning of next week at the latest. So keep your eye on that in Whisk Mail. So why is it important to attend career? Oh, sorry. Oh, so sorry. Yeah, I forgot. I need to admit folks. I thought it was auto join. My bad. There we go. Sorry. For those of you that are just joining, we just got started. So thanks for joining us in Zoom. I was just talking about how we will send a resource guide as a follow-up after we do the presentation after a few days that will contain links and other more things to expand upon in terms of the stuff that we cover. So don't worry if you missed a little bit of it or you forget what we talk about later on. So back to what I was saying about why is it important to attend a career fair? Obviously, a lot of that is kind of just common sense, right? But for those of you that are not familiar with these events or why to go to them, It's a great place to gather more information, do reconnaissance, so to speak, right? Either on future opportunities that you don't know about, but also even things that you may have already engaged in. If you've applied for a position or a few positions at, various different companies, organizations that are represented at these career fairs, that's a great opportunity to follow up with somebody that is representing that organization to learn more about things. Maybe you want to know more details about the timeline with regards to when you can expect to hear back from an application you've already submitted. Great way to do that. You just want to learn more about the culture, maybe how the company has shifted from recent things that have happened related to the economy and to a certain sector. Technology data, right? That's the one. You can go obviously talk about that. Great ways to kind of insert yourself, establish a conversation, or generate anything organically. You obviously can use your pitch, and we'll talk about that as well. Obviously, not all jobs are advertised. This may be surprising to some of you, but you can in fact walk out of these career fairs with potentially an offer. That's pretty rare, I'll be honest with you. But more common, however, is actually getting to getting an interview offer or getting an interview scheduled from one of these career fairs, which is something that does happen from time to time, semi-regularly, actually, as a matter of fact. Obviously, when you're talking to folks, building relationships and creating kind of these bridges and expanding your professional network, you obviously are then putting your face out there. You're getting to know folks. You probably have touch points and basically go back through and maybe interact with these individuals again at a crossroads, obviously due to your career search and your own goals. So it's obviously great because the more you know somebody, the better relationship you have, the higher the chance you'll have of eventually landing some positive career outcomes, which is key. Obviously, you can use this information to pass it on to your friends too. That's another big one, right? So the whole altruism piece, paying it forward, you probably heard that, people say that. It's one of those things where you use that information to help folks that you care about too, right? Could be your friends, could be acquaintances, coworkers. It's all going to be helpful for you at the end of the day. So when you register for career fairs, we get the question of, do you need to register for them? Not if they're in person, okay? So for example, the ones next week, the 15th and the 16th at Gordon Dining, that are the all campus career fairs, among some others that have already happened and others that will take place afterwards, you can just go to those. But if they're virtual, like the Technology Data Analytics Career Fair, which is on the 23rd, which once again, I'll send you that stuff in the career guide, resource guide with the dates and everything that's also on our website, you do need to register for the ones that are virtual. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to sign up for a session, and that's how that is conducted in terms of modality, okay? So make sure you sign up at minimum for the virtual ones. Probably good to RSVP for the ones that are in person anyway, so you get reminders and things of that nature. Research employers, when you're attending the fairs, it's always good to have something to talk about. We definitely discourage folks from going to career fairs, and the first thing you say to an employer is, what jobs are you hiring for? That's on Handshake, that's on LinkedIn, that's on any job platform, okay? So that's something that employers generally don't care to really talk about, because it's just one of those things where they'll say, well, have you not checked our posts, our job descriptions and our job opportunities that are already listed on the established job platforms you're supposed to be using? That's not a good way to start a conversation. So do some other research, look into the company. Maybe that'll generate some questions for you to ask. Maybe you care about what culture is like at the company. How do they support, maybe, underrepresented students or international students they sponsor, things of that nature. You can ask those things. Update your resume for sure. Update your profiles. Despite what you may have heard or not heard, recruiters do in fact reach out to students and recruit students from those platforms. Okay, so if you get messages from folks like on Handshake and LinkedIn, do respond to that. Sometimes it may seem weird that a random person from some companies reaching out to you. Most likely, if it's an established resource or established sources like Handshake and whatnot, they're probably reaching out to get more information from you, or maybe even offer you an interview or to move through the hiring process. Definitely prepare your elevator pitch and speech. I'll talk about how to do that. Pretty easy stuff, but in essence, it's just how you introduce yourself to essentially whoever you're talking with at these career events. And then obviously for the virtual ones, make sure you're in a good space, test your technology, common sense things, make sure that your microphone's working, your battery's charged, you're once again in an environment where you can actually hear and engage, because once again, the Technology Data Analytics Fair, like many others that are virtual, you sign up for a slot in a session and you're really engaging directly one-on-one in a small group setting or individually. So obviously, any disruptions, any weird things that are happening in the background is not going to serve as a good impression for whoever you're speaking with, which could determine whether or not you actually land a position. So, or move through the hiring process. So make sure all that stuff is taken care of. So the pitch, right? We always get that. What do I say? How do I insert myself in a conversation? What do I say to somebody? The easiest thing that we like to do is, in terms of creating the pitch, elevator pitch, whatever you want to say, the introduction, there's many synonyms for that, is you kind of use what we kindly refer to as the the past, present, future model. It's an easy way to remember. You don't have to do it in that order, but it's pretty much just essentially this breakdown, right? So you can start in any order. Once again, you can start with the future and say, you know what, my name is so-and-so, and I'm really interested in working for your company. Let's say it's Google, because from day one, since I came to UW, I've always dreamed of doing programming to work on your e-commerce division or your advertising division, right? And then you can go and immediately switch from future to past. Well, over the course of the last couple semesters, especially during the summer, I actually built a project that specifically was based in e-commerce, and I did back end and front end for that, and worked with another person pretty much to do a full stack. And here are some of the results, okay? And then you can do the present. It says currently, right? I am in my third year, fourth year, second year UW-Madison. I'm in these courses. I'm starting to acquire more and more skill sets that allows me to really enhance my ability and refine my skill sets to match with the qualifications that you're seeking for this position. And I would love another opportunity to talk more about this opportunity that you're featuring right now, right? So I went future, past, present. You can rotate in any order. Okay, so that's a great way to talk about things. Once again, as you get more familiar, you'll probably start to just generate more conversations organically. Maybe not even use the pitch if you don't, want to do that anymore. Because yes, a lot of students do use that. And I always recommend, especially first and second year students who are not, who may be intimidated or a little bit more shy or don't know really how these type of things work, to kind of start with the pitch. It's a great way, once again, to kind of practice your ability to converse in a kind of dynamic setting, obviously, and to kind of get information, learn more things about whoever you're talking with. Thanks for joining. Hopefully you're in. And then basically be able to just get what you're trying to get out of it, which is at the end of the day, maybe get, your application looked at, move into the interview phase, then maybe get eventually an offer, right? So that's kind of the key goal. All right. This is yours. I'm going to pass it to Sang to talk about some of the more logistic pieces.
All right. So during the fair, this goes back to what was mentioned earlier about signing up for the career fair. So if you do sign up for the in-person career fair, I send out a guide in terms of which employer is going to be at the career fair at which table. And so definitely sign up, because the guide or student guide will help you determine where and plan out where you need to go when you're at the fair. You're going to meet with multiple employers. I would suggest doing so, because I have a lot of students who just go to the fair, go to one employer and then leave, right? My advice to y'all is talk to a lot of employers. Save the best for last. Save who you want to talk to for the last, because when you're there, you're going to be surrounded by a lot of students, and you want to make sure that you save your best employer, because you want to make them the best. You want to be improved when you talk to the employer, right? And so you're going to meet a lot of people. Just go and test out your elevator pitch with a random employers that you may not want to work for, and then eventually build up that confidence to actually talk to the final advisor, the final employers that you want to connect with. And a lot of these employers, they want you to come with questions, right? So you have to do research prior to attending the career fair. You want to be able to look at what they do. You want to look at what job opportunities that they have, because especially in the IT field, a lot of students like, oh, I'm in IT. I'm looking for specifically jobs within that realm. But every company out there requires an IT field to be able to function. And so as a student who's looking for position, you need to be able to be concise in terms of what type of questions that you're going to be asking. You need to understand how big the company is. Is it a startup company? Is it small? And what can you do to help improve the growth? These are some of the questions that you need to discuss and think about when you are there, right? Avoid common mistakes, right? It's like, you need to do research prior to actually attending these career fairs. And the reason why that is you just don't want to go unprepared, because these employers, they definitely want to be there to be able to connect with you and provide you with opportunities, but they will also want you to be able to do your own research about them. Because at the end of the day, they want you to be able to work with them, and they want you to be able to understand who they are, what their values are, what their core mission statement is. And so prior to attending the fair, look at them, just do a little glimpse at what they do. And when you're at the fair, you have your phone with you. Before you go to talk to a employer, just look at Google them and say, hey, what do they do? How many employees do they have? and what is the core value, the core mission that they are thriving for. After the fair, if there's someone that catches your attention or there's a company that you want to work for, definitely follow them on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is a great way to be able to connect with people. And I always tell my students, it's who you know at the end of the day, right? Because when you're competing for a job, it comes down to like, hey, I know this person, I can work with this person. There is a high probability that they will hire you on. And so connect with people on LinkedIn, expand that network, right? Because it comes down to who you know. Continue to engage with employers, continue to follow them on any social media platform that they may be on, because you never know who you're going to be able to connect with and who's on there and who's looking and who's also providing internship opportunities for you. Also, watch out for emails from Handshake, because we get a lot of emails from employers saying, hey, we want to hire the student in this field. And so earlier today, I got an email from BMO Harris Bank. Like, hey, we want to hire from this specific program, right? And so what I do is I craft that email, send it out on Handshake and say, hey, they're looking for a student for a summer internship, apply. And so definitely keep an eye out for emails. Don't just trash them or just delete them when you see them. Most of the time when we send out emails, it's usually important. So keep an eye out for that. And meet with your career service office. Like, come into the bookstore, come into the third floor, just come in to meet with us. It doesn't have to be a, hey, I make an appointment, I'm going to go talk to them. Feel free to swing by, feel free to come in, chat with us, learn about what we do in the office and learn about what we can do to support you as international students. Because at the end of the day, the core value, the core mission statement in our office is to be able to provide and decrease the gap of placements after graduation. And this includes all students, right? And so you as international students, don't think that there is no support for you in our office. There is, and we are willing to go above and beyond to be able to help you and connect you with employers that's looking to hire international students. So definitely come into our office and just stop by and say hi.
Awesome. Great advice. Thanks, Thang. And then obviously, now we're going to get to the questions, right? I know it's awkward sometimes and it's a little tricky to navigate through the questions of, well, how do I then disclose to an employer on answering, like, how do I need sponsorship? Do I need work authorization? So really, it just boils down to, if you get a question related to, do you need sponsorship now or the future? If the future piece is there, that's a yes. But if they ask you now, do you need work authorization or sponsorship? That's a no. You'll get that through just the part of your visa, especially your F1, as a part of you being a student here at UW-Madison. Not only through CPT while you're here, but also through OPT, which, well, I guess while you're here or mostly afterwards. And that obviously is a crucial time period where you can utilize that to engage with employers to kind of alleviate their concerns with regards to them engaging with you to offer you positions or internships, especially the internship piece, right? Because there's nothing that they need to do in order to provide you work authorization or sponsorship, because that's already as a part of, once again, your visa status. So you don't need that now, okay? If you do get applications that ask if you need it in future, that is something that, yes, if you need sponsorship in the future, that is something that you will need to do that. So we just put a couple blurbs in here that allows you to kind of get an idea of what to answer when that question comes up. Once again, work authorization, that's covered through CPT, OPT, and then Kathleen will go through that in just a bit. The sponsorship piece, that is something that you will need eventually, but you have at least basically 1 year through OPT. And if you're STEM, that's 3 years OPT. And that's not even counting the CPT that you can do while you're here, okay? So I'm going to pass it to Kathleen, and she has a lot more details to give you all. So thanks so much for sticking with us. And here's Kathleen.
Yep. Yeah. Wonderful. All right. Let me just admit these next folks. Perfect. All right. So y'all want to talk about upcoming opportunities?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Oops, got one more slide. Yeah, so these are just some opportunities that are coming up that are the career fairs, right? So everything is listed on our website besides the CDIS job fair. CDIS stands for Computer Data Information Sciences. They have their own webpage for that. This is all going to be in the resource guide. I'm going to send that to you. Okay. So either access that on the website, SuccessWorks specifically. There's an events link. You can see all these minus the CETUS one, which is on the CETA site. But once again, I have a resource page I'll send you within a couple days at the latest, or maybe beginning of next week. And that's basically it. But definitely look at our other events too. If you go to SuccessWorks, and obviously check in with your career center. I know not everybody's here as part of LNS. So if you're in the business college, if you're in a school of education, if you're in COWS, if you're in SOHI, some of those fairs have already started and are taking place. There are other ones that may still be down the line. So just check with those career centers as well. And I have a link to that in the resource guide too. Thanks.
Perfect. Okay. So hopefully you all are familiar with my office, International Student Services. We call it home away from home, but really it's just a way to encompass everything that we do, right? So I'm here representing kind of our advising team, International Student Advisors, CSI drop-ins. We do all the fun paperwork for you. You send us information requests, but we also have this amazing global engagement team that are doing fun activities like our global cafes, the Peace Practicing English and Cultural Exchange programs. We have a whole section for advocacy through our International Student Advisory Board. We even have a peer mentorship program that's kicking off next semester, so fall of 2023. So lots going on. We are in the Red Gym, second floor, kind of back towards that hallway. So you're welcome to come, pop in, say hi, or utilize any of our services. Or if there's something that you feel is missing, right, especially from that advocacy piece, you're like, wow, has anyone thought about supporting international students in this way? For example, earlier this week, ISS collaborated with Dean of Students Office and was reaching out to all of the students we were aware was from Turkey and Syria with that massive earthquake that was happening, just to reach out and say, hey, where, what's going on? How can we support you? So we also do things like that. Our agenda for today, though, is going to obviously focus on all of the advising fun. So F1 employment options and J1 employment options. We have over 7,000 international students here at UW-Madison. Majority of those are F1 visa holders. So question for everyone on Zoom and in person, is anyone a J1 visa holder? Raise hand virtually or in person. All right, that was my suspicion, but oh, beautiful. All right, Leah, I see you. Gorgeous. So we will go over the J1 because it's slightly different. Because most of you are F1, we're going to focus on that first and for a little bit longer. Perfect. So on-campus employment. We're talking about the career fairs, that's off campus, but you can work on campus. So first, you have to be in lawful F1 status, right? You cannot work more than 20 hours a week on campus during fall and spring semesters. However, if you wanted to work more than 20 hours a week during winter break, spring break, over the summer, you are allowed to, but talk with your supervisor on campus, right? If you're working at like dining services in the union, and check, because frequently UW-Madison has a cap for all student employees where they won't let you work over, I don't know, 30 hours a week or something. So just check in, but know for your F1 visa, you are allowed to work more than 20 hours, like in June. And then we also take a look at your I-20, right? We want to be really familiar with the information on that document. The end date should reflect when you are planning on graduating. So if you see an end date of May 22nd, 2023, beautiful. Hopefully you are graduating this May. If you see that end date, May 22nd, 2023, and you're like, I just talked to my academic advisor, I have a year left. Do a program extension through Teradata. We want to extend that end date to accurately reflect, or maybe you're so amazing, you've been taking more classes than you required, and you're like, well, my I-20 says December 31st, 2023, but actually I'm done in May. You want to shorten that I-20, right? So it reflects when you're actually graduating, and that is the date, that program end date, when you would have to stop working on campus. So this is why it's super important to be aware of those dates, because we don't want you to make a mistake and work on May 23rd when your I-20 ended May 22nd. This QR code is the link to the ISS page that has all of the on-campus locations, right? Madison is big. It has a lot of buildings. Sometimes it's hard to know, is this on campus or is this off campus? So feel free to use that link, and I can send this out with all of house stuff as well, so you can have this and just double check, because sometimes it's unclear whether or not something's on campus. For off-campus employment, like all of these employers in Google that you might be talking to next week, you also have a couple things to keep in mind. So again, must be in lawful F1 status, right? We've enrolled properly. We're not taking too many online classes. We have an I-20 that has an end date in the future. It didn't end December 2022. And then you have to have been enrolled full-time for at least one academic year, right? So that's in-person I-20 start date back in, let's say, September 7th, 2022. You could do a summer internship for summer 2023, right? Because you would have done fall 2022, spring 2023, summer we're eligible. You also have to have declared a major, right? So all of these off-campus employment opportunities we're talking about have to be tied in to an academic objective, right? They have to be tied into your major. So if you're still general studies, you would want to work with your academic advisor in the school that you're declaring and make sure you've officially declared that through the MyUW Student Center and everything with that department before getting authorized for work. So, CPT, curricular practical training. What this is temporary employment authorization to give you practical experience, right? Just like the name says. It's curricular, so think academics, tied to the major. You have to enroll in an internship class during this experience, and it's practical work experience off campus. This can be paid or unpaid. This can be multiple positions throughout a semester. This could be one position that's multiple semesters. But again, because it's curricular, ISS approves it per academic semester. So you could get this approved to work at Tesla for spring 2023. And then we would have to approve you to work at Tesla for summer 2023 if you wanted to continue that experience. So there's two types of CPT. There are ones required by your program. This is typically for graduate students who might have an internship requirement prior to graduation, right? It's written in the guidebook. It says you must have an internship of 200 hours in order to graduate. The School of Medicine is a great example, right? A lot of their degrees, they require this practical experience for all students, American, international, and everyone in between in order to graduate. For the most part, people who do CPT are the option number two, the optional or elective. So academic career advisors are like, yes, this would be a great opportunity. You would learn a lot. This would really help you build in what you're learning in the classroom and have that knowledge of how this relates, you know, in the practical world, in the career world. But because it's optional, we have to enroll in an internship course. It might be LNS 260, it might be an engineering co-op. It also depends on the school that you are in as to what your options or what your academic and career advisor might recommend you enroll in. And ISS has to see that you have enrolled in that course before we're able to create a brand new I-20 with the CPT listed on it. So again, like I said, CPT can be part-time, which is 20 hours of work or less a week. This does not affect optional practical training or OPT, right? You can do as much CPT as you are approved for before graduation, zero impact on OPT. Full-time CPT, or 20 hours of work or more per week, you can only do 365 days, really 364 just to be safe, of full-time CPT before you lose the opportunity for OPT. So if you wanted, you could do 2 years of full-time CPT if you were approved for that, but that means you do not get to work off campus after graduation. So there's a balance. Again, it can be authorized multiple times. So like I was saying, doing the spring, then doing the summer, but you have to have that academic support, right? So you have to have that academic or career advisor signing off through Teradata that this is a good experience for you, because we cannot use CPT to delay graduation. So you couldn't just take a co-op course that counts as full-time, like multiple semesters in a row. You're like, oh, I'll graduate in 2 years. It's fine. I only have a class left. Doesn't work. F1 is all about being a student, right? It's a student visa. So we have to show that you're making progress towards your degree. So, new thing ISS is trying out this year, because we know we get backed up with lots and lots of students wanting to do summer CPT. So, our summer CPT application will open in Teradata March 1st. That sounds kind of late, but maybe tomorrow. It actually means that you could go through the entire Teradata application, right? You could upload your employment letter, you could get verification from your academic advisor, you could show us proof of your full academic year of enrollment before you ever enroll in the summer internship class. An ISS advisor can look through all your documents, we can make sure everything looks good, and we can essentially pre-clear you if you're thinking about flying, that you're good to go for CPT. And then beginning the week of April 3rd, right after enrollment's been open, you've had a chance to enroll in your summer internship class, we can just start approving you. Quick. So if, for example, you're getting pressure from Microsoft that's saying, hey, we want to see your CPT authorization early April, let's go, we are more likely to be able to meet that deadline. Last year we were racing and it was like May, right? We were about 4 weeks behind, so we're trying to avoid that for this year. So CPT requirements, kind of like I mentioned before. So you have to have that employment internship offer. So you have to have that official letter, right, with details about your position. The letter, honestly, is the thing that gets the most students stuck, because there's a lot of information that has to be in there, and we'll go into it in more depth. You have to report an employment location. CPT can be remote, it can be in person, it can be hybrid. But we have to outline that and be really clear about where the work is being done, because I have to put that into like the government system and it show up on your I-20. And again, determine number of hours per week. Is it part-time or is it full-time? And we need that officiated and like written down from the employer. So you will have to show proof of enrollment in an internship class. Again, this is like the very end of the process if we're going through it for summer, because we're trying to approve everything else that we can first. You have to have specific start and end dates. I know sometimes employers are like pretty flexible and they're like, well, you can't start without CPT approval. True. I can't approve you for CPT unless I can write a start and an end date on your I-20. So I need that information. The dates usually coincide with the semester start and end, because again, we have to approve it per semester. But for example, a summer CPT, you could start that as soon as the spring semester is done. So if you wanted to start a summer CPT like the day after your finals for spring semester are over, that is absolutely a day that we could do. Again, we just have to get approval and you get that new I-20 before you officially start working. We also need a position description. I'm the assigned ISS advisor for computer science folks. I don't understand all the computer science terms, right? I'll be honest. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, Python, that's that program. I don't know, I'm not that smart. So written descriptions of what's going on and how it relates to your major, very, very helpful in the employment letter. So I know it's tiny font, but if you use the QR code, ISS has an example of a CPT employment letter. We even have a template of an employment letter that your employer could literally just type in. Boom, it has everything we need. It has to have your name on it, right? Obviously, we need to know who this is, who's getting the job offer. If you have your preferred name on it, that's no problem. If you also have like your whiskey mail or something that is identifying and very clearly you included in that letter along with your preferred name, that's fine. Official company name, that's going to show up on your I-20, and we need to know who's officially hiring you. So that information is important, and their company letterhead, right? Sometimes I see CPT employment letters that are a Word document, and it like kind of looks like someone pulled an image off of Google. That feels really suspicious, right? We don't want falsified letters. So getting HR, a recruiter to help you with this letter can be very nice. Most people who hire CPTs like Amazon, oh my gosh, they have their letter down set. It's so perfect. It is exactly what we need because they do this for so many students. Again, address of employer. Their official company address, but then also if you are working remotely, give us that. This might be your apartment address. That is fine. Just let us know so we have clarity about where the work is taking place. Name and contact information for the employer. This could be a supervisor. This could be a recruiter. This could be someone in human resources. We just need a real live human that we could go to with questions, right? So their first and last name, email, phone number, right? Their contact information. Having it on the letter is going to help you too, because you're going to have to write it in a questionnaire in Teradata. Requested dates of employment. Again, need an official start date, need an official end date. If you have a letter that has a start date and an end date, you start working with them, they love you, they're like, oh my gosh, we want you for another month. That's fine. Submit another CPT request and we can extend that experience for you. We can always go in and update your CPT if there are changes. We just need to know about it. And again, average number of hours per week. How do I know if it's part-time or full-time if I don't have the number of hours on the letter? Typically, folks will also say if it's paid or unpaid, so that's helpful. Usually it's right in the same spot. And again, position details. So title of position, description of duties, right? We want it really clear of how this connects. You will actually have your employment letter and you should share it with your academic or career advisor, whoever is doing that verification for you in Teradata, because they will sign off, right? They're the experts in those majors. I'm not necessarily the expert in all of those majors. And so they will say, yes, I reviewed the letter. Yes, this clearly relates to their major. Yes, I can confirm this is a great experience for the student. Sharing that letter with them is going to be important. And honestly, the hardest part of this whole thing is that employer signature. So authorized digital signature, like Adobe, right? Adobe Acrobat does a really good authorized digital signature, or a real ink signature. Again, sometimes I see signatures that look like they're copy pasted or it's like questionable. Someone just typed in with one of like the cute cursive fonts. It's not an actual signature, right? That could be faked. That could be someone just typing in a person's name in a fun little font. So that's why we're really specific on the signature. This also helps you in 10 years down the road, right? If you're applying for permanent residency and they say, show me all of your employment letters ever, you're going to have a really official looking employment letter that you could share with an immigration attorney. All right, so process. Go to the career fair, find an employer, right? We have a job, perfect. Step one's done. Step two, talk to your academic or career advisor. Say, hey, I have this awesome opportunity. What class would you recommend that I enroll in for a summer internship? Here's my employment letter. Does this look like it's a good fit with my major? 3, submit a completed CPT application in Teradata, right? We send an electronic verification to that advisor you just had a conversation with. We upload that employment letter you already have. You type in a couple answers to questions you already know. Boom. ISS reviews it. We're like, wow, this employment letter is perfect. We're good to go. Then you enroll in the appropriate course. You're like, I just talked to How about LNS 260. So perfect. I'm going to enroll in that. you're done. I see you enrolled. I approve you for CPT. You get an email. Hey, your CPT is approved and you have a new I-20. Start date on that CPT approval on page 2 of your I-20. You can begin working. Sounds easy. I know it's a lot more complicated than that. I saw the chuckles about like, oh yeah, just find a job. I get it. So once you've enrolled in that course, right, and we've hit the April 3rd date for our summer CPTs, takes ISS an average of 15 business days to process. We're going to see if we can be faster than that for summer. That's our average right now. We're also an advisor short, so it's really exciting right now. But we cannot approve CPT until you enroll. So even though I can start approving CPTs on April 3rd, if you haven't enrolled in the course yet, I can't approve you. So plan accordingly, especially if you're starting to get pressure or you've talked to the recruiter and they're like, yeah, we'll buy your plane ticket out to California. You just have to confirm you have your CPT I-20 ready to go. You're going to want to enroll quickly. And this is actually what it looks like. So on page 2, you probably have a blank employment section right now. When CPT is approved, it adds. So you're going to say it's for CPT. This one is full-time. It's been approved. This one's old, so it has a start date of June 6, 2016, and that one's going through August 19th. And you can see the employer information right there as well. If my words weren't in the way, it also has the address, so the city and the state that the employer is based in. OPT. So, optional practical training. As it suggests, this is optional. It's not required. So it is another opportunity to gain practical work experience in a related field to the degree you were going for at UW-Madison. It can be paid or unpaid. Obviously, it's nicer if it's paid, but you get those choices. So CPT was fully approved by ISS, right? You just did the Teradata form, you enrolled, boom, you're done. OPT has an extra step. You go through the Teradata request, ISS recommends you PT, and then we get to put in an application with the US federal government or USCIS, US Citizenship and Immigration Services. They take longer to approve, right? So we just have to plan ahead when we're thinking about this. And again, purpose of OPT is to apply that knowledge and the skill you got from your UW-Madison degree to the real world experience. 3 types of OPT. Pre-completion OPT would be before graduation. This is less common because we also have CPT, but you could do pre-completion OPT. Any months at pre-completion OPT take away from the time we have a post-completion. That's why it's less common. Post-completion OPT, as long as you had a major, you were a declared degree-seeking student at UW-Madison, you can get 12 months of OPT at every single degree level. Bachelor's, master's, doctorate, right? We can do this over and over again for the 12 months. For the STEM extension, this is for students who have graduated Madison. They're on their first 12 months of post-completion OPT, and they have a computer science degree. They're working with a company who's E-verified. It's a full-time paid position. And their company's like, hey, we love you. We want you to work longer. They can then apply for a 2-year extension of their OPT experience because of their STEM degree. They have to apply while they're still on OPT, and they have to go through ISS first, get that new I-20 again, and then apply to USCIS. STEM extension happens twice, right? So we could do it at bachelor's and master's, but then if you go for your doctorate, even if it was in a STEM field, we couldn't do that STEM extension for a 3rd time. So who is getting close to graduation? Right? Who's thinking they're graduating in May? Got a couple? Cool. So you might be eligible for post-completion OPT if you've been enrolled for 1 full academic year, right? So again, fall 2022, spring 2023, you've got it. You are maintaining valid F1 status. You're not secretly a cook over Burger King on Washington Street, right? Like, we're not doing that. You are physically present in the US. Congrats. You two are very clearly meeting that requirement. You intend to pursue practical training or an employment opportunity directly related to your major, because you do not have to have a job before applying for OPT. That's why you have to intend to work. You have not been authorized for 365 days or more of full-time CPT. And you have not already been authorized for 12 months of post-completion OPT at the same degree level. So you didn't do a bachelor's, do OPT, come back for a bachelor's. So as long as you meet those requirements, you could absolutely apply for OPT. Likely on your I-20, you have a standard end date of May 22nd, 2023. This is a magical calculation ISS does based on when final grades are due. And then we give students a couple days, right? That's how we come up with the end date, just in case things happen. Something goes terribly wrong. You find out a grade, you're like, oh no, I can't graduate yet. I need to retake stats 403. That's fine. Just let us know. We can work with you on a program extension. But when you apply for OPT, because you don't necessarily have a job, all of the timing is based on that I-20 end date. That's why it's so important. So first, you go through Teradata and you submit an OPT request. You get to pick when you want to start working on OPT. Maybe after the career fair, you already have a job. So you're like, wow, my employer already told me they want me to start June 1st. Great, we can use that as an OPT start date. Maybe you're still looking. Maybe you're so popular, you have a couple options and you're like, oh, I don't know what I want to choose yet, so I'm just going to pick a day. Any start date must be within the 60 days after that May 22 date, right? If you're graduating. So you could pick an OPT start date anywhere between May 23rd up until July 21st, right? You could pick any day in between to say, that's the day I want my OPT to begin. You would receive a new OPT I-20 from ISS that would have that start date listed on page 2. It would say, we recommend the student for OPT, they are maintaining status, they are eligible for it, and they want to start working on this day. After you get that new OPT I-20 from us, within 30 days, because like my signature is only good for 30 days with USCIS, you then put in your request. You're like, hey, US federal government, I'm graduating. I really want to do OPT. Here's all of the proof that says I'm eligible and I would be great at OPT. So then they think about it. Right now, they're at about 2.5, 3 months for processing time, right? So that 3 weeks from ISS isn't sounding as bad. This link, when you go into it, you can actually check on the USCIS website and see how quickly they are processing applications right now. So if you want a good idea, that can be helpful. USCIS will let you know though. They'll say, hey, we received your request. Hey, we're processing your request. Hey, we approved your request. Your employment authorization document, right? It's like a little EAD card, identification card, is in the mail. That EAD card is going to have an OPT start date and an OPT end date. 99% of the time, as long as we were in good time with our application, we submitted things early enough, that start date's going to be what you request. If you put in a request and you're like, I want to start working May 23rd, but you submitted your request to USCIS May 20th, they're not going to approve you in 3 days. So that start date is going to change and is going to be the day they approved you. So it might be July 1st instead, right? When they actually get and approve your application. You cannot begin working on OPT until the start date on your EAD card. So even if you get your EAD card May 20th, if that start date is not until June 1st, you cannot work until June 1st. So OPT employment options could be internships, could be volunteer opportunities, could be contracted specialists, right? You are working for one company doing like a very specific project. It could be staffing or temp agencies. I'm hired by this company to work in this other company. All of that is acceptable as long as the work you are doing is related to your major and as long as you tell ISS. On OPT, right? So CPT, we had the full-time option, we had the part-time option. Post-completion OPT must be 20 hours of work per week minimum, but this could be added, right? Maybe we are working in one job for 10 hours, another job for 5 hours, another job for 5 hours. Great, we got it. During COVID, students who were even working a single hour were not getting unemployment days on OPT. That is currently what the guidance says. However, I keep hearing rumors from the federal government. There was an announcement from the White House last week that's like, we're ending COVID guidance. So I'm kind of expecting we're going to learn more this semester. So we will notify everyone if that changes, but just plan on 20 hours of work minimum per week to count as full-time. If you do not have any employment, like let's say you have an OPT start date of June 1st, your job isn't starting until June 10th. June 1st through 9th counts as unemployment days, right? We were unemployed, we didn't have a job. Throughout the 12 months of OPT, you get 90 days of unemployment. You can use a couple days here, a couple days there, or you can use 90 all at once. But once we hit that 91st day of unemployment, OPT is done, right? Doesn't matter that we didn't get to the end day. We've gone over our unemployment days, which means you can no longer work on OPT and you have to depart the US immediately. So keep an eye on those unemployment days. How do you stop unemployment days? You tell ISS, right? You tell us you have a job. You tell us you moved to Silicon Valley, right? We update all of that information. Even though you graduated, you are still on an active F1 visa. You still have an I-20 that is valid. We're still your go-to. So just keep letting us know. We have a super easy Qualtrics form linked on our website that has skip logic. So if you say you want to tell us about a mailing address, it's only going to ask you about your new mailing address. Traveling. You can travel in and out of the US while on OPT, that is fine. But because you aren't a current student, right, that end date is still going to show May 2023. You have to have your passport, right? We always have to have a valid passport. Valid F1 visa. So if your visa expired 2022 and you are now traveling this summer, you do need to get a visa renewal in order to come back. You would have that OPT EAD card. You would have that I-20 that would say OPT is approved. And you would have that proof of employment letter, right? You would have some sort of documentation that you are employed by a company. If you are in this weird gray area of I've applied to USCIS, my I-20 is ending May 22nd, but I really want to travel, please, please, please wait until OPT has been approved, because if you try to come back May 25th without that OPT EAD card, they're not letting you back in the US. So you really have to watch the dates if you're wanting to travel between graduation and starting that job on OPT. It's possible, you just have to be approved for OPT first. STEM extension, so you'll probably notice that your I-20 isn't exactly written the major of how it is on your transcript, right? It's a little off. That's because there's a standard practice in all US colleges and universities that we have standard language. What is a computer science degree? What is an English degree? And it's tied into those 6 numbers next to the degree name. Those 6 numbers determine what is and is not STEM eligible. So we have a whole page on the ISS site where you could check. It's called CIP, classification identification program or something like that. You can see if it is. So like I said, I always use computer science. A, they're on my caseload. B, I guarantee you if you have a CS degree, it's STEM eligible. So you again apply for that new I-20 through Teradata. We give it to you. You apply to USCIS. I did see I have a J1. So on-campus employment, J1 students have to go through an extra approval process, right? So they have to get approval from their sponsor in order to work even on campus. So there is a form through Teradata if UW-Madison is listed as their sponsor that they go through. We're very familiar with that, so we're happy to do it. And again, same to the F1s, may work up to 20 hours per week, has to be that on-campus location, so the same QR code. Off-campus employment, so F1s had the OPT and the CPT. J1s only have academic training. Still have to be in lawful status, still have to be in good academic standing, employment still related to their majors, still have to have an employment offer, but they have an additional step of having to have academic and employer verification before approval. So academic training can be used before graduation and after graduation, same like OPT if you think about it. But again, double checking their DS 2019 sponsor is super important because some sponsors don't allow academic training. They say, nope, it's only about your education. It's only about the classes you're taking. So before graduation, pre-completion AT, obviously before the end date of the DS 2019. This is typically part-time authorization when classes are in session, makes sense. And it can be for up to 18 months or the duration of the degree, right? Sometimes our I-20s, our DS 2019s are only for a year. They're only for shorter periods of time. J1 students, that's actually tied into how long they can be approved for academic training. Post-completion academic training, again, is full-time, just like OPT. And the authorization begins after the end date on the DS 2019, same like OPT. But again, their authorization, so OPT is for 12 months plus the extra 2. Academic training, it's all 18 months, or if their DS 2019 is only for 12 months, then they'd only get 12 months of academic training. Doctorate students and J1 students in the STEM field could get an additional 18 months, so up to 36 months total of academic training. It all depends on their major. Just like F1 students, right? All goes back to what's on your official document. So requirements, similar to how F1 students report employment and location of employment, same with J1 academic training, right? You have to have a physical address where the work is being performed. Any change in the address creates a change in the DS 2019, just like it would on our I-20s. They have to have specific start and end dates, just like curricular practical training. Again, dates usually coincide with semesters because we approve academic training per semester, just like we do CPT. And that part-time and full-time is the same, right? 20 hours a week or less is part-time, 21 hours or more is full-time. If someone hasn't graduated though and is J1, that's usually only for summer is full-time or post-completion academic training. So again, 15 days application through Teradata, and we're even doing an academic training workshop specifically for students who are interested in this experience. They get a new DS 2019, they get an employment letter from ISS, lots of information for their employers. So that was a lot of information. So how do you connect when you're like, oh my gosh, she talked about something about applying for summer and I forget which order I'm supposed to do CPT. So you could send an information request to your assigned ISS advisor. We break it down by majors. So if you're not sure who your assigned ISS advisor is, it is on the website under students, find my advisor, you can look it up. If you don't remember, you are welcome to send it to me. I am at 5 business days right now. Some of my colleagues are only at 3 business days because they are like way better than I am. But regardless, we do try to get you within 5 business days. If you're like, gosh, it's such an easy question, I just wanted to verify when that application opens, you could talk to one of our graduate peer advisors at the ISS front desk. They are super helpful for like navigating the website, answering basic questions. They answer our phones. Or you could chat with them while you're waiting at drop-in advising. I think our timing is only, well, okay, we were worse on Monday, but Yesterday, I think we were only at like a 10-minute waiting period for our drop-in advising. And you can see any ISS advisor who's available. It's kind of hiding, but it's best for short questions. And we offer it Monday and Tuesday from 2 to 4 p.m. and Thursday morning from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. through Zoom or in person, whichever you prefer. Weather's supposed to be nasty tomorrow, so if you want to come in, maybe Zoom, so you don't have to fight through the snow and the ice, but entirely up to you. Our office will be open. The third option, schedule an appointment with your assigned ISS advisor. These are all virtual through Zoom, unless you tell us in your appointment request that you really want to meet in person, right? Maybe you want to bring in an employment letter and get some feedback. Hey, it's everything I need on a CPT employment letter. Just let us know you want to meet in person and we can figure that out. Each advisor has different availability, but we all have 12 appointments per week. So you could look at your assigned ISS advisor, see when their time is. If you're not seeing any appointments, you could reach out to them through an information request. It's actually the same link in Teradata to schedule an appointment or send an information request. The only difference is you don't pick a date and a time to meet for an information request. And finally, here are some upcoming ISS workshops. So if you are graduating and want to know more about OPT, because I did that very, very fast, that's next week in this room. If you want to know more about CPT after having a conversation with employers or maybe getting an employment offer letter and not knowing next steps, March 9th, we will be doing a CPT workshop. Probably in this room, but I don't have that confirmed. So just keep an eye on our website. That big QR code is a link to our event page where we have all of the fun events like Global Cafe and all of the student workshops listed in the same spot. We also have a couple STEM ones coming up. The reporting requirements is mostly for students currently on STEM OPT. But if you are STEM eligible and you're curious what that application is going to look like a year or two down the road, you're welcome to join us for that application workshop as well. If you've realized from this conversation, looking at your I-20, that it ends early and it is not accurate for when you're graduating, or suddenly you realize, oh no, I am done in May. I don't know what I want to do next. You might want to come to our program extension and completion workshop. We'll talk about all of your options as a student when you're graduating. So that can be helpful too. All right. And this is our contact info. Send me an information request. My emails are way bad, right? I'm like 3 weeks behind.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us. Sorry for going over a little bit, but it was a lot of information. Hopefully you found it useful. So we're going to end the Zoom session real quick, and then we will be here for a little bit afterwards, Kathleen and myself, in case you have any questions. You have obviously ISS related questions, OPT, CPT, AT, things of that nature. Kathleen will definitely help you with that for a little bit. If you have more kind of career fair prep, questions related to overall, like just, you know, what do you do in terms of finding jobs, how to engage with employers, what do I need to do at career fairs? That would be me. Okay. So feel free to step up. And for those of you that are online, thanks so much for joining us. Let's see here. Yep. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Yeah. Thank you, Leah, for joining us. So thanks for coming. And we do this pretty much once every semester or so. Take a look at those workshops. We'll send the resources and maybe I'll share the presentation as well, just to have the access to that. So check your WISC email as well. So thanks so much, folks. Take care. Of course.